Hey there, and welcome back to the deep dive. We've all navigated the rush of an airport terminal or found our seats at a stadium, maybe even braced for a storm delay. But have you ever paused to consider the incredible foresight and complex systems at play, keeping these massive hubs safe and operational, even when the world throws a curveball? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the extraordinary resilience of airports and large venues. We're exploring how they plan for, react to, and recover from just about everything: extreme weather, security threats, even the subtle art of managing massive crowds.
It's a really fascinating area, because the smallest detail or oversight can have truly massive ripple effects. Our sources today, they include comprehensive airport case studies, guides on landside security, crowd safety, evacuation planning. They offer an incredible look at the innovative solutions and, honestly, often surprising workarounds that keep these critical hubs functioning even when the unexpected hits.
That's exactly right. So our mission for you today is to really extract the core insights from these experiences. We want to reveal how facilities worldwide have learned from past disruptions and applied those lessons to build a stronger, more adaptable future. Okay, let's dive in. Building on that sheer complexity you mentioned, let's consider one of the most, formidable challenges: the unpredictable fury of nature. What happens when, say, a lightning storm hits Bozeman, Montana? It doesn't just knock out power, does it? It literally drains thousands in revenue.
Right. Bozeman's experience with that lightning strike, I think it cost them around $6,000 in lost parking revenue and another, $17,000 in equipment damage. It really highlights a critical point. These seemingly minor disruptions can expose massive systemic vulnerabilities that force them to reevaluate their entire risk posture, not just the immediate damage. And it gets more extreme. They also faced a 10-day stretch of temperatures dropping to -30 Fahrenheit.
Wow, -30.
Yeah, which is actually below the minimum required for aircraft de-icing chemicals.
Yeah.
So flights were grounded for hours. And these frigid temperatures were so sustained that the cold-penetrated facilities, it even froze a sprinkler line when an automatic entry door failed. Just one thing after another.
That's incredible. And, you mentioned St. Louis earlier. Recovering from an EF4 tornado in just 24 hours is astonishing. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum, like Chicago O'Hare, one of the busiest airports globally, right? They experienced their third 100-year flood in a single decade back in 2008. It flooded equipment, failed pumps, caused power outages. They even had to replace elevator infrastructure 3 times in 10 years.
That's not just bad luck. It suggests a deeper challenge, doesn't it? It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And this constant push and pull between immediate cost-cutting pressures from airlines and the strategic need for long-term infrastructure investment, that's a core challenge for airport resilience. I mean, how do you justify replacing still functioning equipment with costly long-term upgrades when airlines are always focused on immediate, cheaper repairs?
Yeah.
O'Hare's approach, rigorously tracking equipment age and maintenance costs, that provides a data-driven blueprint for making the case for these crucial, yet often invisible, upgrades. It's a balancing act.
Okay, let's talk about Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW. They faced a major ice storm in 2013 that canceled, 90% of its flights? What critical staffing lessons did they pull from that kind of huge disruption?
They learned a lot about the human element, definitely. They significantly enhanced their staffing plans, tailoring them for different weather events, like snow needs a different response than thunderstorms, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, so this included establishing 10 to 12-hour shifts and even thinking about finding space within the airport for staff to shower, eat, and sleep, just to reduce their travel during really difficult conditions. They also invested in more snow clearing equipment, 2 additional snow blowers, I think, and developed predictive models for maintenance scheduling based on precipitation intensity, really trying to get ahead of the weather.
All this planning, it relies so heavily on foresight, which brings us straight to forecasting. It sounds like a given, but our sources show it's actually a huge kind of nuanced challenge, especially for places like Bozeman you mentioned earlier. How do they even begin to predict localized weather when the standard tools just fall short?
It's a genuine struggle for them. Bozeman, being in a valley, doesn't get good radar coverage below 10,000 feet, and the National Weather Service data, it just isn't specific enough for the airport's precise location. So they've had to use workarounds, like literally observing conditions in nearby towns, which is, far from ideal.
Not exactly high tech.
Not at all. And this is why an airport like Manchester, for instance, actually invests in a paid forecasting service. It costs them maybe $5,000 to $7,000 a year, but it provides highly targeted daily reports, even considering specific pavement temperatures unique to their airport.
Oh, okay.
It really highlights the need for that hyper-localized data to inform proactive decisions, especially when something like de-icing a main runway costs, what was it, $4,000 per application at Bozeman. Every little bit of predictive accuracy saves significant resources.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. From the unpredictable forces of nature, our sources also spotlight a chillingly different kind of threat: human-instigated attacks, particularly in those publicly accessible landside areas of airports. Events like the Brussels Airport and Ataturk Airport attacks in 2016 or the Fort Lauderdale shooting in 2017, they really show a stark reality.
Yeah, the shift in focus to landside areas, those parts of the airport, anyone can walk into it, reflects a pretty chilling evolution in threat landscapes. These spaces become prime targets for varied motivations, inflicting mass casualties, causing economic disruption, making a symbolic statement, generating widespread public anxiety. It's complex.
So it's not just one thing.
Exactly. It's a multi-layered problem, which demands a comprehensive, multi-layered approach to security. You need prevention, detection, response, and recovery, all working together.
That multi-layered approach, it sounds comprehensive on paper. But in the chaos of a real threat, how do these different layers, physical measures, behavioral detection, how do they actually integrate without just overwhelming operations?
Well, a key integration point is using specialized units, like explosive detection dogs. They're a powerful deterrent and detection tool. They combine excellent detection capabilities with portability.
Right, the K9 units.
Exactly. Now, they do require specialized training, and they can only work for limited periods, but their deployment by law enforcement offers a highly visible and, frankly, effective physical presence. And complementing the K9 teams, you also have behavior detection officers. They're critical too.
Behavior detection, okay, that sounds incredibly nuanced. What exactly are they trained to look for? How do you tell the difference between a genuine threat and, just a really stressed out traveler? We've all been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is precisely about that differentiation. Officers are trained to spot indicators like an unusual interest in airport operations or security measures, or someone repeatedly visiting specific locations, maybe taking excessive photos of things with little artistic value, wearing clothing that's inappropriate for the weather or seems bulky, or displaying extreme anxiety that just goes beyond typical travel stress.
Oh, it's subtle signs.
It's a subtle art, yeah. It requires really careful observation, and it complements the other security measures. It doesn't replace them.
Okay, beyond the human element, how does technology factor into deterring and detecting these threats? I'm thinking about CCTV, security lighting, those emergency alert systems maybe.
Technology provides critical backbone support, for sure. High-definition CCTV, for instance, is essential, not just for identifying potential threats in real time, but also hugely helpful for post-incident forensics.
Right, figuring out what happened after.
Exactly. And security lighting is crucial for effective surveillance. It basically extends the eyes of the security personnel. And for larger public spaces, particularly parking structures, you might see integrated blue boxes or emergency alerting systems. These provide a direct communication link to the Airport Operations Control Center. But these aren't just reactive tools. They're part of a proactive strategy. Just having them there signals a strong security presence, which can itself be a deterrent to potential adversaries.
So when an incident does occur, a natural disaster, a deliberate attack, how do airports manage the inevitable chaos? That Lambert-St. Louis Airport case study after the EF4 tornado in 2011 is just remarkable. I mean, despite immense destruction, they ceased operations for only 24 hours and were back at 100% capacity in 4 days. What's the secret sauce behind that kind of rapid recovery?
It really is a testament to highly effective emergency response planning and, crucially, empowering staff. They learned that less senior staff, like the airport police watch commander in that case, needed the authority to make critical unilateral decisions to evacuate people, which actually happened before the tornado hit their terminal and undoubtedly saved lives.
Wow. So delegating authority down the chain.
Yes, and it highlights the importance of regularly drilled all-risks emergency response plans. These meticulously define roles and responsibilities for all key personnel and outside agencies involved. Everyone knows their job before the crisis hits.
Communication. That always seems to be a huge challenge in any crisis. Our sources really emphasize how absolutely critical, clear, coordinated messaging is, both internally to staff and externally to the public.
Oh, absolutely. It's paramount. Airports establish dedicated crisis communication coordinators. They set up call centers for concerned relatives. And crucially, they have pre-scripted holding messages ready to deploy across all channels: websites, social media, public information lines. Consistency is key. Many also have backup websites that can be activated within minutes of a crisis. This provides official updates fast and helps counter misinformation that spreads so quickly online.
Right, controlling the narrative.
Exactly. DFW, for example, uses something called a C3 portal, basically a centralized command control and communication hub, plus a paging system for quick, coordinated updates to both internal and external stakeholders. It ensures everyone gets the same information rapidly.
It sounds like maybe a core lesson from these incidents is that training everyone, not just the dedicated security staff, is a really big part of this whole resilience picture.
Yes, absolutely. A core lesson that comes through loud and clear from our sources is that security is everyone's responsibility. Non-security staff, cleaners, retail workers, airline agents, they're incredibly valuable sensors in that landside environment. They see things security might miss.
So you train them what to look for.
Precisely. Training programs educate them on recognizing suspicious behaviors, suspicious objects, and importantly, how to report their concerns effectively. They learn simple, memorable protocols like the hot EPRI protocol for unattended items. Is it hidden? Is it obviously suspicious? Is it typical for the location?
HOT.
And the 5 W's for reporting suspicious activity: what, where, when, why, who. Simple questions to ensure consistent, rapid, and actionable intelligence gathering from literally every employee. It empowers everyone to be vigilant.
And after an event.
Critical after-action reviews, conducted immediately to gather lessons learned and improve future responses, like DFW reviewing its custodial staff contracts after they realized they had shortages during a huge influx of stranded passengers. It's about constant learning.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. Beyond the human element and the response plans, how do airports build resilience directly into their physical spaces? The concept of security by design seems like a big theme in the material you shared.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how security isn't just, bolted on as an afterthought. It's integrated from the very earliest planning stages of a new building or renovation. For example, if a design calls for a straight, long road leading to the terminal, which could potentially facilitate a vehicle-borne IED, they might redesign it with bends or chicanes to naturally slow traffic. Or they'll incorporate specific hostile vehicle mitigation measures like blast-resistant planters. And it's not just about putting barriers there. Even the landscaping is scrutinized. Those glass-resistant planters, for instance, are designed to have tightly formed foliage and limited plant height, specifically to prevent anything from being concealed within them. It shows this almost obsessive attention to detail and layered security.
That level of forethought for physical protection is really something else. What about protecting the actual buildings themselves from explosions or other direct impacts?
Well, this raises a really important question. How do you prevent something like the progressive collapse we saw after the Oklahoma City bombing back in 1995? A primary strategy is using standoff distances, basically keeping threats further away. They use impact-rated bollards and other barriers to stop hostile vehicles far from the terminal ideally, at least tens of meters from any main entrance.
But what if you can't get that distance in an older building?
Good question. If that's not possible, they might use authorized vehicle lanes with strict driver authentication, but still with a robust barrier between that lane and the terminal itself. And beyond vehicle threats, they focus on blast-resistant facades and specialized glazing for windows. The goal is that if the glass does fail, it won't produce highly hazardous fragments that can become secondary projectiles, causing more injuries.
So what does all this mean for how passengers actually move around the airport from a safety and security perspective?
It means really carefully designed pedestrian routes. These are planned to channel people away from secured areas during an evacuation, for example. And they try to avoid unnecessary infrastructure that could itself become a hazard in an emergency. Arrival areas, for instance, are particularly challenging because people naturally congregate there for extended periods, waiting for taxis or relatives.
Right, lots of waiting around.
Exactly. So the design has to account for this. It needs clear wayfinding, but also needs to minimize opportunities for concealment. Things like using open base chairs instead of solid ones, or clear garbage bins. Every element, right down to the furniture, is considered for its security implications.
Okay, let's get into the science, maybe, of getting people where they need to go safely and efficiently. The monitoring of passenger flow source you mentioned talks about how airports manage the sheer volume of people and mitigate those queues and crowds.
Yeah, they increasingly rely on sophisticated passenger flow monitoring solutions. These use data-driven approaches to measure, analyze, describe, and even predict crowd movements. What's smart is that this often leverages existing infrastructure. They use CCTV cameras, but the software interprets, counts, and tracks anonymized data from the video feed. They also use Wi-Fi signal positioning.
So using what's already there.
Exactly. It's about getting real-time intelligence from the airport's existing ecosystem, turning all that raw data into actionable insights about how people are actually moving through the space.
This gets really interesting when they talk about using that intelligence to actively reduce processing time and manage crowds. Things like self-service kiosks, automated processes, they must play a huge role here.
Oh, absolutely. These initiatives are crucial, both for efficiency and for safety, because big crowds can be a security risk in themselves. By encouraging online check-in, using automated bag drops, enhancing security checkpoints with technology to process passengers, faster airports can significantly reduce bottlenecks. They even segment passengers by type families, business travelers, passengers with reduced mobility to understand their different processing needs and optimize their experience.
Makes sense. Different groups move differently.
Totally. And dynamic signage and smartphone apps play a vital role too, giving you, the passenger, real-time information to navigate the terminal in the quickest, least stressful way. They might even suggest alternative routes during peak times based on that flow data.
So if we look at the bigger picture then, what does this all really mean for the future of airport and stadium operations? It feels like this constant cycle of learning and adaptation, doesn't it?
Precisely. That's exactly what it is. It's a never-ending quest for preparedness and resilience. It's about leveraging lessons learned from every incident, no matter how small it seems, to continuously refine emergency plans, update risk assessments, adjust operational strategies. And this includes seemingly minor details like optimizing sanitation planning based on predicted passenger arrival patterns, or even tracking the location of wheelchairs to improve staff efficiency. It's just an ongoing dynamic process of anticipating and adapting to an ever-changing landscape of challenges.
Well, you've just heard how the world's airports and stadiums are these incredibly intricate ecosystems of planning, technology, and human ingenuity, all working together to ensure our safety and smooth operations. It's far more complex and fascinating than just catching a flight or a game, that's for sure.
Absolutely. From dealing with freezing de-icing fluid to designing blast-resistant windows to providing that profound psychological support needed for staff after an attack, our deep dive really shows that preparedness is this meticulous, multifaceted endeavor, and it's constantly evolving to meet new challenges.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. Considering this constant evolution of threats and environmental challenges, how might our airports and large venues leverage emerging technologies, think AI or real-time simulation, not just to react better, but to actually predictively adapt their entire operational footprint? Maybe even down to the smallest detail, like the cleaning schedule for a specific restroom, before a single passenger even steps foot on the property. Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more well-informed and perhaps a lot more appreciative of the incredible work that goes into keeping these complex environments running smoothly. Until next time.